All right, let's dive into a really powerful ancient story I want to share with you. It's called Eyes of Fire, a story of seeing beyond fear. And you'll see, its message, well, it's just as real for us today as it was way back when. So let's get right into it.
But before we go any further, I want to ask you something. Think about it for a second. When you feel completely surrounded by fear, what is it that you see? What's the first thing that grabs your attention when you feel trapped or totally overwhelmed? Just hang on to that thought as we go through this.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story begins in a city gripped by fear. We're in this ancient city, Dothan, and it's that eerie, quiet moment right before the sun comes up. You can just feel it in the air, right? That tension, that feeling that something is very, very wrong.
And then, as the first light starts to crack the horizon, that feeling becomes a horrifying reality. The whole city, it's completely surrounded. A massive enemy army. We're talking horses, chariots, soldiers, everywhere you look. I mean, just picture it. From a purely physical perspective, this is it. It's hopeless. There is no way out.
Now, inside the city, we've got our two main characters, the prophet Elisha and his servant. And how they react to this impossible situation, well, they couldn't be more different. And that contrast, that's really the core of this whole story.
So the servant, he's the first one up. He steps outside and his world just completely shatters. All his eyes can register is the enemy, that immediate, terrifying physical threat. Pure panic just takes over. For him, the fight is already lost. It's over. They're done for.
You can just imagine him, right? Scrambling back inside to find Elisha, his voice totally cracking with fear, screaming, "Alas, my master, what are we going to do?" It's that raw, desperate cry of someone who sees absolutely zero hope.
But Elisha, he's the total opposite. He is completely calm. While his servant is literally falling apart at the seams, Elisha's response isn't to freak out or start planning a defense. Nope. His response is prayer. And this moment, this is the pivot point. This is where everything changes.
So Elisha just looks at his terrified servant and says super calmly, "Don't be afraid. Those who are with us are more than those who are with them." Can you even imagine hearing that? You're staring at an entire army, and your boss says, "Don't worry, we've got more on our side." It sounds completely insane, right?
And then Elisha does something really incredible. He doesn't try to argue with the servant's fear. He doesn't try to reason with him. He just turns his focus upward and prays a really simple prayer. "Oh Lord, please open his eyes so that he can see." Think about that. He's not asking for the problem to go away. He's asking for his friend's perspective to change. And what happens next? Well, it changes absolutely everything. This is the moment where the servant's reality, his whole world and all that fear, it just gets flipped completely on its head.
And right then, in that very instant, the Lord opened the young man's eyes. And what he saw, wow. It must have been absolutely breathtaking. The entire mountain around them was filled with horses and chariots of fire. A heavenly army, an invisible force that was way, way bigger than the enemy he was so terrified of just a second ago. It was this hidden reality that had been right there the whole time.
So, okay, what's the big idea here? What does all this mean? This wasn't just some cool, stunning vision. It was a powerful lesson, right? A lesson about seeing beyond what's right in front of your face, beyond the immediate threat that's screaming for all your attention.
Let's just break this down. You've got these two totally different ways of seeing things, side by side. First, you have the servant's view, which is all about fear. All he sees is the visible enemy, and it just leads to total hopelessness. But then, there's the true reality, seen with eyes of faith. Suddenly, there's an invisible protector. There's overwhelming help. And here's the key. The physical situation didn't change one bit. But his perception, that changed everything.
And really, this is what it all boils down to, the real enemy. It wasn't that army on the hill. The real battle was being fought against the fear inside the servant's own heart. Elisha had this calm, this faith, that let him see past what his eyes were telling him.
So this story, as old as it is, leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. You know, we might not be facing down armies with chariots, but we all have our own sieges, don't we? Things like anxiety or doubt or situations that just feel impossible. So the question for you, for me, for all of us is, what unseen help surrounds you? What bigger reality might be waiting for you if you could just see past the fear? It's a powerful thing to think about.